Mr. Amit Ramsaran, NIHERST National Science Center Innovations Department, and Mr. Rondell Frank, the STEM Coordinator, Shell Trinidad and Tobago Limited. Good morning, gentlemen, and welcome.
Good morning, Rishi. Thank you for having us.
I don't know which one of you want to start, but what is this Lego League about?
Okay, so first Lego League, basically they develop and they research real-world problems around the world. For example, things like recycling, energy, food preservation, and they design challenges that they use science and technology to solve. The technology being they use the Lego Mindstorm kits. Lego Mindstorm kits are geared towards robotics, and they develop challenges whereby the participants in the tournament has to design, build, and program a robot to solve these challenges on an on-field table, as well as develop a project where they actually do research, analysis, and develop a prototype of some sort or a solution to these problems.
And this is for children 9 to 16?
9 to 16, correct.
How do you get children involved in this, though?
With respect to us in Trinidad and Tobago, we have a lot of these secondary schools taking part. So a lot of secondary schools has teams in it. Last year we had 10 teams in the final. This year we have up to 28 teams in the finals.
And it is an event between FIRST, the organization, and
FIRST and Lego is a partnership they have together to do this first Lego League. NIHERST has been able to bring it down here together with our main sponsors and partnership with Shell. So it was only possible with them that we were able to bring this tournament down here.
Yeah, so Mr. Frank, let's get you in on this discussion. It's a relatively new initiative in Trinidad and Tobago.
Correct. To some degree, this Lego League falls under STEM, which should be science, technology, engineering, and math. The reason why we are corporate sponsors of this event or tournament is because we see the level of impact it has and will continue to have on the student population. It also aligns with some of the things that we are geared to doing, which is helping students to be critical thinkers, problem solvers, having a systematic approach when confronting challenges where they could have, creative solutions to some of these problems, So we see it as something that we're definitely excited to get on board and sponsor.
Because when you talk about science and technology, everybody is into the technology, but they don't know the effort that actually goes into making like a cell phone or something.
Correct, correct.
How do you get these young people to focus and do these things? You talk about children 9 to 16.
So I'll give you an example. We currently have a STEM center where we'll engage different schools, they'll visit the STEM center and we'll interact with STEM activities. The whole concept behind it is you want to simulate the working environment because the goal is you want to prepare students for the world of work. Obviously there's a gap and students are not that equipped, and we see a program like this where you have First Lego League coming on board that will help students to interact with one another and come up with, different robot designs. And as a result, there's some aspect. So for example, growing up, I'm familiar with Lego, with the robotics and, creating different animated objects, if it's a car, whatever the case may be. And to add the new aspect where you actually program it. And when you see the students, say there's a challenge, you have to create a car that has to do like a 3-point turn. They have to consider the, the different aspects of the challenge they'll have to undergo, and as a result, build a car to whichever specification and then program it. So when they get to see the practical value in the stuff that they're learning, you see that the students are very engaged, excited about it, and they want to learn more,
Mr. Ramsaran, you talk about programming and designing the robot and that kind of thing, but how much work goes into an event like this, especially when you talk about 9 to 16, which are relatively young people?
Correct. So with respect to participants, each team allowed 10 students max. That's 10 kids between 9 to 16. You also allow 2 adult coaches. So normally adult coaches will have a fair idea of how things work. So they would be there to coach the teams throughout. Now, as Rondell said, they see the practical aspect of things. So from the feedback we had from last year, you have kids saying they're better at time management, they're more into the science and technology subjects, they're looking at career paths with respect to science and technology. So for us now, we have had training with these teams throughout the time. So since we launched the first Lego League, from back then till now, students or the teams were able to come into the National Science Center, liaise with us, and we would coach them through building and designing their robots to a certain extent. We would help them with basics of the programming, as well as give them an idea of what's to come. So the theme this year is hydrodynamics. It deals with the human aspect of the water cycle. So it's a topic they would be researching. It's the challenges they will face, and they would have to, as I said, design, build, and program their robot to do challenges with respect to that theme.
Mm-hmm. So these children, they come, they take part, and what do they get? Okay,
so the first place gets a trip to Houston, which hosts the International Lego League competition. So the first place, both coaches and the team, all expenses paid trip. They get to go to Houston, experience the whole Lego League festival. It's a whole festival that they have there.
When is this event taking place in Trinidad?
In Trinidad, it's on March the 10th, which is Saturday coming. Yeah.
From what time and where?
It's from 12:30. It's open to the public. It actually starts at 8:30. It's at the National Cycling Velodrome in Vancouver.
Yeah. How does STEM, you talk about sponsoring this event.
Mm-hmm.
What would the company get out of this?
I think for the most part, we look at it like a win-win situation because we're getting to develop students, which is the future workforce for our country. Also, one of the things we also see is it'll also produce diversification, which is one of the areas that we're looking at. Yes, we may think of it, probably we're trying to push to get engineers, but we focus on schools, we focus on specific forms, and by that, all students are interacted or engaged, and as a result, it helps them to, critically think, as I expressed before, and be very innovative with some of the things that they come up with. These students can then go off in any respective field, if it may be accounting, not just the engineering that we may be going after, but we really see it as we get to develop the working force, as I shared, and, I think it benefits the country in a whole.
So it is important, and it gets the mind of the young people working.
Correct, it definitely does. For me, I think you get to see students have that eureka moment, because a lot of times, it's one thing to sit down in a classroom and you learn content, but when you have something in your hands and it's practical and you get to see, okay, I've actually created this, I'm getting to control it due to doing some level of programming. You see them like, wow, yes, there was this challenge, I was having great difficulty, and similar to what Amit shared with the whole teamwork. So one of the things that stood out to me was competition, which is the merging of cooperation and competition, where students actually work together. So say, for example, I have a robot, and as a result, I'm having troubleshooting issues, it's giving problems. Rather than in a genuine competition, students would probably keep to themselves. You have other opposing team members coming and assisting you and helping you, stuff like that. So I think the heart of the competition is very positive. And to me, it resembles what the working world is like. You don't work in silo. You work in an environment where you have to come together, bring your expertise, your know-how. And the important thing is to help students see that positive side of working together to come up with a solution to whatever challenge presenting us.
And it bodes well for the future of Trinidad and Tobago, because you have these young people developing and coming up with new ideas. And who knows, we might have the next big breakthrough in Trinidad and Tobago someday.
Correct.
Hopefully.
So, the future of the competition in Trinidad and Tobago, you expect it to be something that would stay for a long time?
Very. We just don't expect it in Trinidad and Tobago alone. Last year were teams just from Trinidad. We have 2 or 3 teams from Tobago this year, and hopefully we'll take it regionally, because we represent the regional qualification for the main Lego League. So hopefully this year being Trinidad and Tobago, from next year, who's to say we get teams from all over the region.
Is it that these teams are school-based?
Most of them are. Most of them are school-based. There are some kids that just friends, or they from a certain club. Like last year, even though they were majorly just from schools, the team that won were teams that were just friends with each other that formed the team.
Mm-hmm. So Is registration still open?
No, no. Registration was closed a while back.
So if somebody wants to get involved,
It'll
how
have
would
to
they
be for
do
next
that?
year.
If somebody wants to get involved in the next cycle,
Next
how do
cycle.
they go about doing that?
Definitely. We have registration. We'll definitely post it on the NIHERST website, on the Facebook page, the Instagram page, and so on. And it'll be there from maybe around the summer. You'll know what's the theme for the next Lego League. You'll know exactly when registration will be open and where they can come and register.
Why hydrodynamics?
Actually, it's just what the first Lego League chose. So whatever First and Lego chooses as their theme, we have to go with it.
But you see it being practical for Trinidad and Tobago now?
Correct.
Definitely, they focus on things in the challenges such as desalination plants, water pollution, and so on. So it's all aspects that we face.
Young people would be probably listening to this and thinking, but that sounds so difficult. You know, you have to come up with this and you have to do that, and it all sounds so challenging. How would you encourage them to be part of this, though?
I would say just go out there and take part in it. It all seems challenging until you actually do it. And from the time you get past the first hurdle or the first so-called challenge, as Rondell correctly said, you have that eureka moment and it all just falls into place.
Have you had that moment?
I think a couple of times since I've been there.
But I think also there's some level of support. You know, you have your teachers. I think at Shell, we're hands-on on the project as well, in the sense of we have STEM ambassadors, which are Shell employees, engineers, people working in HR, different backgrounds, and they come and they interact with the students, you know, to empower them, to give them insight, and, you know, some level of mentorship to really inspire them to really pursue. So I think, yes, it may seem like something new, but it doesn't mean that, you know, they can't overcome whatever challenge presenting. But I think definitely the program will help foster, you know, things in students that we want to see, you know, positive values.
And if the winner of this competition will go abroad and compete in the competition, and they will be competing against other countries. Correct?
Definitely, yeah. Everywhere around the world.
How many countries normally participate in things like these?
I don't have an exact number, but it's a huge festival and a lot of people.
And I must also mention, like, last year's winners were actually students from primary school, believe it or not, and they actually received an award, you know, while they participated at the event abroad, you know, so I think it's something that we need to consider. Yes, you may think it's difficult, but if primary school students can do it and they are persistent and diligent at task, you know, it's doable.
They probably, you know, just a little bit more advanced than some of us.
They were actually the youngest team in the competition that won last year.
Correct.
And primary school is what, 12 years maximum?
Yeah.
You go from 12 to 16, and I'm looking at this, and when I saw 9 years, I'm like, 9 years and you're talking about innovation and design?
Yeah. Why not? I think these students are, you know, once you engage them on that level, sometimes we think that they'll shy away from it. And probably in the beginning, you know, the first few minutes, because it's something new. But, you know, we need to remember that this generation, you know, is big on technology. So once you approach them with stuff like this, they're very much into it. And they really want to get hands-on experience with some of the stuff that you have to offer, like the robotics.
So it's something to look forward to. The event is coming up on March 10th, which is this coming Saturday. Mr. Rameswaran, just give us the details once again.
Sure.
Yeah, so it's at the National Cycling Velodrome in Vancouver. Yeah, it starts at around 8:30, but the public can't come in until like 12:30. So around 12:30 is when the actual robot challenge happens. Previous to that, they will have they'll be judged on their projects and the core values and so on.
When you say robot challenge, exactly what do the robots have to do?
Okay, so there's a field, a mat, whereby certain challenges are put onto the mat, and that's where they actually use their Lego kits. They build their robots, and they have a certain time limit to complete as much tasks as possible on the field. So all the excitement happens there. There are 3 lanes, and it'll be constant, non-stop action.
Yep.
And is it free to members of the public?
No, it's $30 for ages 13 and up, and $20 from 3 to 13.
So that isn't much to contribute. Gentlemen, I would like to thank you both, Mr. Amit Rameswaran, NIHERST National Science Center Innovations Department, and Mr. Rondell Frank, STEM Coordinator, Shell Trinidad and Tobago Limited, for coming in and talking to us about the first Lego League, which is taking place on March 10th. This is Good Morning Trinidad and Tobago.